Okay, welcome to the Hyde Park Central School District's Board of Education meeting on June 13th of 2019. Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss confidential personnel matters?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion carries. We're now in executive session. Welcome to the Hyde Park Central School District Board of Education meeting. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
So there is no agenda modifications. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Sorry, I'm not ready. So, upcoming events. Regents exam begin next week, Wednesday on June 19th. Please check your school for times. Moving up day for Netherwood Elementary and North Park Elementary. It will be on Monday, June 24th. Again, check the school for times. Moving up day for Ralph R. Smith and Violet Avenue will be on Tuesday, June 25th. Again, check your schools for time. And also on Tuesday, June 25th, will be an early release for kindergarten through 8th grade. And Wednesday, June 26th, moving up day for Haviland Middle School. And again, check the school for times. And Thursday, June 27th, will be the next Board of Ed meeting right here at the district office. And on Friday, June 28th, what is that, Patrick?
Graduation.
So that will be commencement will begin at 6 p.m. Okay, and do we have anybody with pride? Patrick, first.
Yeah, I just have some the spring sports update because they finally came to an end. So for softball, they finished with a 15-3 record. They qualified for the Class A section tournament. They won their first game against Cornwall, and then they lost in the semifinals to Minnesink. The girls lacrosse, they ended their season with a 10-6 record. They qualified for the first time for the Class B playoffs. They lost to Valley Central in the first round. They had two Section 9 All-Stars, Amelia Booth and Gianna Caprioli. And they had two honorable mention All-Stars, Therese Sheba and Hannah Guarino. For the baseball, they finished with a 13-5 record. They had a great season. They were the Class A Section 9 champs. They defeated Minnesink Valley in the championship game. At the regional final, they played on June 8th, and they lost 8-5 to Maine Endwell. For spring track, the girls were the Mahal champions for the first time. Sarah Trainer qualified for the state tournament in 3 events, steeplechase, 800 meter, and 1500. She took third in state in the 800 and the New York State champion in the steeplechase with a new state meet record. And the boys took their second Mahal championship. For boys tennis, they finished the season with a 5-5 record. And for crew, the girls, the FDR girls crew team became the Hudson Valley Rowing League Grand Champions with a first in the girls' first 8 race and a third in the girls' first 4 race, topping 15 other teams for the championship. And then I have a list of the winter 2018-2019 Scholar Athlete teams. So these are teams where 75% of the roster, their GPA is higher or equal to a 90. So it was baseball, softball, boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse, boys spring track, girls spring track, and boys tennis. So that's the majority of our spring team. So, and that's it.
Does anybody else have pride?
We had the Hall of Fame recognition dinner and the Student Athlete Awards. I know Patrick was there. It was a great evening. We had Jim Runcie and the entire basketball team from what year? Or most of them from the 1976, I believe, All-Star team. So it was a very festive evening. The speeches were amazing. And the keynote was also a past star from our basketball history, Will Daniels. So it was a great evening, both for the Hall of Fame portion and also to see all our student athletes recognized. So we gave Patrick a shout out for being there as a board member as well.
Also, Carl Tomic, board member, cannot be here tonight, but he wanted to put a shout out to the Science and Technology Department for their Physics Roadshow. He said it was a really great experience. He watched, and he says he hopes it'll grow because he'd like to see the chemistry involved, but he highly recommends we continue doing that. Okay, on to...
I do have one more thing for Pride. The new weight room they just opened it up, they redid everything. It looks really, really great. It's a really big improvement from what it was. It looks, I'm sure you guys have seen pictures, there's pictures on the website and on social media and stuff. It looks really great. And also, over in the corners, our next student Board of Ed member is Rachel. So she'll be taking my spot next year. You guys will be in good hands.
Welcome, Rachel. Patrick, I'm so glad you mentioned the new fitness center. It is called the John Golden Fitness Center. We are having a ribbon cutting and dedication next Wednesday, June 19th at 3 o'clock. All are welcome. Again, we'll have an official ribbon cutting for the new John Golden Fitness Center. So I hope we get a big turnout for that.
And I want to make a shout out to Haviland Middle School. Their Be Kind, what they did with their students, it's now getting national recognition. So, I mean, it's gone out on the web, and now people are, so it's went out. So.
And we have it that's the last piece of our Pride. It should be on the agenda there, Jay. The agenda's not up there.
Rick's got it.
Oh, okay.
It'll come up.
Okay. And we're going to ask Eric Shaw to walk us through, this was actually a student, one of our clubs, the Student Government Club. So I'll let Eric explain how this all came to fruition, and it was picked up by ABC News, and there's some really cool follow-up. So go for it, Eric.
Thank you very much. We actually are very proud to be part of this which became a larger movement. Beginning of the year with our grade level conversations that I had with students, and really a TED Talk around lollipop moments and random acts of kindness, and you never know how you impact other people. Our student government jumped on it right away under the direction of Andrea Zlotis, one of our reading teachers in the building, and she put out kindness challenges every month, simple things that middle school students could do in an easy way, whether it's simply smiling at the people who walk by you, putting a nice note in someone's locker or desk. Throughout the year, we also had a T-shirt contest, a Be Kind T-shirt, which Erica Podolsky, who is an 8th grade student, designed a T-shirt, Be Kind. You'll see a lot of that sea of blue out there in the beginning of that picture, and those are shirts that students purchased they didn't have to purchase to be part of the event. Also, our Haviland Middle School PTA helped sponsor that. Leading up to the actual event, the spelling of the Be Kind on the front lawn, we had a Be Kind Spirit Week, which was themed every day with different ways that people can demonstrate kindness. It was picked up by ABC News. It was picked up by a radio station in New York City where Donna Eastman, who was the organizer of this portion of the event, who has a wonderful skill and knack for large-scale organization like this. We're part of a radio show and recognition there. People have been reaching out from, I would say, many states across the country, been getting letters and information about other work people have been doing to Be Kind. So we are certainly very proud of the work that we've begun here at Haviland Middle School.
And the author?
Oh, yeah, so yeah, Laura Schraff, who's the author of a book called Invisible Thread, who also does a young readers edition, which just came out as part of the New York Times bestseller list, came out this past March. She reached out and she's like, I just want to come and talk about acts of kindness. So we will have an assembly on Monday. It'll be for the building, 2 separate opportunities for kids to participate, where it will be about just a little bit about her story, but really having students generate ideas and her to facilitate a conversation about the little acts of kindness that middle schoolers can do to promote a better place, a better community, a better world. So we're super excited about that as well. Thank you, Graham.
Yep, and
A message of kindness that was hard for students at Avenel Middle School in Hyde Park, Dutchess County, spelling out "Be Kind" in front of the school. This year, the school chose to work on different activities to promote being kind. They also created a Be Kind Spirit Week, leading up to this great picture. And for more information on our Be Kind campaign, be sure to log on to abc7ny.com/Be Kind. Your message will go directly to me. And thank all of you for responding since we started this campaign.
Okay, let's see.
okay, thank you. Nice, that's
Thank you very much.
At this time, we'd like Patrick to come up. So this is Patrick's second to last board meeting, and we know that it's the night before graduation, but we wanted to take an opportunity to thank you for your volunteer service as the student member of the Board of Education. I always say it's a very brave move. There are several opportunities for students to get involved, but there are generally other students sitting around you, and as the public can see, Patrick is the only student up here, so it's a very visible, it's televised, and just very brave of you to join this adult endeavor as a volunteer and also to represent the student voice. So Patrick's actually going to give a presentation later on and leave us with some thoughts from a graduating senior. But on behalf of myself, the Board of Education, and the entire Hyde Park community, thank you for your service as a student board member.
Stay there for a picture. All right, ready? Thank you.
So is there any more pride?
Just a recognition that our concert in the parks was this past week. It moved inside, but it was a great concert, and we were just happy we could pull it off and relocate it.
Okay, on to next. Can we have the superintendent's report?
Yeah. Oh, and I also wanted to say that we had the Tri-M induction, and Sarah Beery was the guest speaker and did a phenomenal job. So quite an honor to have one of our graduates come and speak at that very moving ceremony.
I'm in awe of my daughter all the time, so thank you for that.
And before as we're moving into superintendent's report, I'll give the report for the Hyde Park Education Foundation. I'm an ex officio member. Many of you know that the Hyde Park Education Foundation had their signature event, the Field of Honor, this past Memorial Day weekend. This is the second year that the Education Foundation has been in existence. We're thrilled that it was revived. Their only mission is to support and enhance our schools and to raise funding. So this year, after a year in existence, they were able to give out scholarships to 5 of our teachers, or sometimes, in some cases, teacher teams. The 5 grants in total came to $4,478 that were awarded to teachers who submitted grants. The grants are reviewed by the Hyde Park Education Foundation. So, not in any order, but Catherine Lang, the orchestra teacher, will fund 25 shoulder rests for violins and violas. They're definitely essential for overall performance and proper playing, so congratulations to Catherine Lang. Laura Collins is proposed to have her second grade class, as well as the entire North Park school, actually design, write, illustrate, and publish a local history book. So I can't wait to see that. That's going to be an amazing project. Mary Langenow, second grade teacher, also North Park, proposed Full Steam Ahead, and it's to provide off-bit group makers. I don't even know what an off-bit group maker is, but I'm sure she knows exactly what to do with it to really engage our students. Magna Click Tiles, Geo Mag Cubes, that I kind of know what is, Brian Bricks, all for indoor recess and choice activities. These are all objects that can engage our students in STEAM activities. Ann Marchetti, also fifth grade teaching assistant, and Joan Magnuson, teacher at North Park Elementary, kindergarten through 5, provides 4 storage containers to organize and hold various playground items and a triple shoot basketball game. The containers will be located in a central location and easily accessible, so again, to enhance our outdoor playground. So congratulations on behalf of the Hyde Park Education Foundation to the first year's recipients of the grant funding. Okay. Ready? So the next item on the agenda is the official report on our demographic and enrollment and facilities long-range overview. But before Barbara gets up, and I'll introduce Barbara and Chow Ling, I'm just going to show you, actually I should have made Linda do this because she gave it to me, but anyway, I'll do it. It's fine. Linda shared a document that we just thought it was very appropriate to take a few minutes to go over this, because it really does tie into why do we look at our long-range enrollment, why do we look at our facilities, why do we invest in our school district, and this is just a little bit of a different look on investing in our school district. I don't know who's in control, but someone needs to push a button. Here we go. So through the New York State Association of School Business Officials, I'll give full credit to Linda. Linda got this and actually downloaded our information. Traditionally in education, they talk about the long-term benefits of what students who graduate bring to a community and to society, both through volunteering, civic engagement, financial support by paying taxes, etc. But this is the first research into what does the actual school district bring to a community. Beep. So, we'll go back one. So they actually developed for the first time a tool that would measure what was the economic impact that a school district brings to the community. We have a report that shows what our particular district does for Hyde Park, what it does in the region, and what the state impact is of school districts. So we're going to take a peek at Hyde Park. So the local impact that Hyde Park brings, we have approximately 700 employees with what they call 300 spillover, part-time or people who work here because of what the school district provides. And if I get any of this, Linda's a little bit more knowledgeable.
I actually think the spillover means jobs that are created outside of the district because of the district.
Because of the district, okay. The direct impact on our community we are the largest employer in the community. We bring in $43.3 million in income, and again, that's spillover, 24.8, and you can see the total. What we bring in income tax is $2.3 million, add the spillover calculation of $1.2 million. So in income tax, $3.5 million. And in sales tax, $0.8 million, coupled with the spillover is $1.3 million. So this just really goes on to say that, we have the 700 jobs, the 300 spillover, and the school district is responsible for, really 1,000 jobs. And again, I'm not sure, we got culinary here, I'm not sure how many, I think they're less, but in fact, I'm pretty sure they have less than 1,000 employees. So this is just a recap of what kind of income and income tax is generated and sales tax. Just to give you a little bit of a comparison, this is what the regional impact. So the Dutchess County employment in school districts is 51,810. Right, this is the regional one. That's the Hudson Valley, I knew that was wrong. That's the Hudson Valley region, not just Dutchess County. And I believe, did we put at the end the website? Yes, if on the last slide, if you could go back to the last slide, you can't see it, but if anybody wants to look at the full report where they actually put the state, and there's a web address at the bottom there. It's really hard to see. It's in that red line. But if you would like to see the full study, the full breakdown, and if you would like to read the methodology of how they develop their tools, if anybody's into that kind of metrics study, it's all there on the website. But we just thought that it was an opportunity for us to talk about not only what we're doing with our schools in the future, but what's the immediate economic impact. So with that, I would like to invite Barbara Graciano up and Shuling Lin from Western Suffolk BOCES. They have done our enrollment and facilities report. I will have to say it's been an absolute pleasure working with both of you. Thank you. It was with a lot of nerve-wracking tension throughout the year, trying to find out, okay, so what will the study reveal? We had some hunches. The whole cabinet participated in a lot of back and forth with getting you the data, and we were really pleased with how it was packaged. So tonight we invite Western Suffolk BOCES to present their findings, and after tonight we will put the full report. All of the board members have a copy of the full report. The full report will be posted on our website, and the PowerPoint tonight is the condensed version. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Good evening. Again, thank you for your kind words, and it has been a pleasure working with you in the district. And we're very happy, Shuling and I are very happy to be here this evening in your beautiful community. It's really a lovely place to come, to have to go to work. So anyway, I'll start off by just giving you a brief background on the Office of School Planning and Research at Western Suffolk BOCES. Since 1985, we have completed more than 1,000 studies for districts on Long Island and in the Hudson Valley region. Some of the Dutchess County districts that we've worked with or are currently working with include Arlington, Beacon City, and Poughkeepsie. You might wonder what exactly is involved in a study. Well, we start off by researching the demographics of the district, which would include births. We research national birth trends as well as local birth trends. We obtain data from the New York State Department of Health, including county, town, village, and school district birth numbers. We also research housing trends in the district, and that would include historical housing turnover within the district, as well as median sale prices. We also contact the local municipalities to find out information on any current housing that may be going on in the district, as well as any proposals that may be before the planning board. Next would be population trends. You research lots of census data to obtain various information, trends on population, not just whether the population is increasing or decreasing, but also changes to the ethnic structure of the district or changes to the age structure, as well as other various socioeconomic factors. And the last up there is non-public school enrollment. We research those trends within the district to find out if there's any impact to the school district itself. Then enrollment, we research enrollment trends over the, or analyze enrollment trends over the last 10 years. And that would include migration trends, grade-to-grade migration trends. In other words, does the district tend to gain or lose students or just maintain students as a cohort moves from a grade this year to the following grade in the next year? And from that, we develop migration ratios that are used to project grade 11 enrollment going forward. And the last one up there is the birth persistence analysis. This is where we analyze the relationship between kindergarten enrollment and the number of births 5 years prior to each historical year. We then develop kindergarten birth ratios, which are used to project kindergarten enrollment. And those ratios reflect children who move into the or out of the district after birth, as well as children who may be attending non-public schools. This shows you some of the research sources that we utilize. One of our biggest, of course, is the U.S. Census. We also use data from the New York State Education Department, the State Department of Health, New York State Office of Real Property Services, the National Center for Health Statistics, Pew Research Center, local planning boards, as I mentioned, and also school district records. I'm often asked about the accuracy of our projections, which are very high, I might say. Overall enrollment projections generally fall within a 4% margin of error. Now, there are several different categories of projections. The first would be based on students already enrolled in the system, which are, of course, the most reliable. The next category would be projections based on documented births, which are slightly less reliable. And then the last category would be projections based on estimates of future births. And of course, those would be the least reliable. Also, now the study that we issued and you have read gives projections for 10 years. For the purposes of this presentation tonight, I've just included projections for the next 5 years, as those are the most accurate. Once you get beyond that 5-year mark, obviously trends change, things happen, and those projections in the second half of the projection period become less accurate. First, we'll talk about demographics in the district. The slide shows the numbers of residents in the Hyde Park School District. And as you can see, between 2000 and 2010, a population increased by 1.1%, or approximately 340 people. Then between 2010 and 2017, there was an additional increase of 0.4%, or about 122 people. This slide shows you the age structure of the resident population within the district for the period of 2000 through 2017. And if you look at the first line, the preschool, or the under 5 population, has decreased during that period from 5.3 to 4.1% of the population. The school-age population decreased between 2000 and 2010, but then has seen an increase between 2000 and 2017. The same for the young adult population, the 20 to 39 age group. If you look down to the 65 and older population segment, though, that segment has increased from 12% to 15.5% during this period. And as you can see on the bottom line, the median age was a little more than 38 years in 2010 and has decreased to 36 years in 2017. And that's younger than the Dutchess County median age of almost 42 years. This slide shows you births in New York State. As I'm sure you know, births have been declining nationally, statewide, countywide. So the 2018 birth data, national birth data was just released, and there was an additional decrease of 1.6% in the number of births, which is, that mirrors the national trend, which showed that births fell 2% in between 2017 and 2018, and that was the lowest number in 32 years. So it seems that those millennials still are not having as many babies as women used to. So, of course, fewer babies means fewer kindergartners. This slide shows you Dutchess County births, which again shows a similar downward trend. This is for the period 1996 through 2016. We do not yet have the 2017 or 18 birth data from the New York Department of Health yet, but it's anticipated that there will be further declines there. This shows you births within the Hyde Park School District, and here there's a little bit more of a fluctuating trend, although there have been declines this year. Well, if you look at the numbers between 2003 and 2008, in all but one of those years, births were over 300 per year. Beginning in 2009, births have been under 300, with the lowest point in 2011 with 238 births recorded that year. Next, we'll look at housing sales within the district. And as you can see, housing dropped to the lowest level of this period, which is 2006 through 2018, dropped to 132 homes sold in 2011. Since then, housing turnover has been increasing as it rose to 340 sales in 2017, which was a return to the level that we saw last in 2006. There was a drop-off, as you can see, in 2018, and generally, that's a trend we've been seeing, and it's been attributed to a lack of supply in the housing market. This shows you median sale prices within the district over the same period, 2006 through 2018. And here, the median sale price dropped to just under $200,000 in 2012. And beyond that, remained relatively stable, although has increased to $233,000 in 2018. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything new, that there are a couple of big proposed housing developments within the district. The first is Bellafield at historic Hyde Park, and this calls, the plans include 2 hotels, shops, restaurants, a spa, conference center, and 558 residential units. According to information we've received, Phase 1 is in progress, which includes construction of the first hotel and the infrastructure, which would include the road, sewer, water treatment plant, and so forth. Phase 2, which includes the second hotel and the conference center, is in the planning stages at the moment. The other project in the works is the Hudson Heritage Project. This includes plans for a hotel, retail plaza, golf course, and 750 residential units. As of December 2018, Phase 1, which includes 134 multifamily units, is under planning board review. Now, these projects are not included in the projections that we have done because both of these are still, especially Bellafield, it looks like by the time they get to the residential segments of the construction, that will be beyond the time frame of this report. And it looks that way for the Hudson Heritage Project.
And Barbara, I'll just interject now here on the Hudson Heritage that Jeff and I went over to the town planning department. We were invited for the Hudson Heritage, and since your check-in with them, they are further along, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
were surprised, but still too soon to start counting numbers, but
Right.
they're in their next phase now.
But yeah, so these are projects that should be monitored because at some point it may be obviously something that we need to consider and include in the projections at a later date, once we have more information.
Yep.
Next, we'll look at enrollment trends. This shows you enrollment in Dutchess County for the period 2008 through 2018. And during that period, there was a loss of approximately 7,700 students, or almost 17%. Next, the Hyde Park School District has seen a similar downward trend in enrollment over the 10-year period, 2008 through 2018. There has been a loss of about 800 students, or almost 19%. Going forward, during the next 5 years, we're, as you can see from this graph, it looks like enrollment is starting to level off, and the projection is for an additional loss of 106 students, or approximately 3%. This shows you kindergarten enrollment for the last 10 years, during which time enrollment ranged between 214 and 270 students. Going forward, during the next 5 years, the projections indicate 228 to 251 students will be enrolled. This slide shows you the actual numbers and percentage loss or gain by grade configuration. And as you can see, the numbers are significantly smaller on the right side of the chart, fortunately. During the 10-year historical period, the elementary grades lost approximately 300 students, the middle grades more than 200 students, and the high school grades almost 300 students. Moving forward for the next 5 years, again, the declines are stabilizing, and in fact, the elementary configuration is expected to gain 23 students by 2023. The middle grades are expected to lose only 73 students, and the high school grades 56 students. A couple of factors that are impacting the district enrollment are, on average, the district does gain students or maintain students in transition to most grades. However, average losses are noted to grades 1, 8, 10, and 11. However, any gains in migration will be minimized by losses through displacement, which I will show you on the next chart. This chart shows you how the district loses students each year as smaller larger 12th grade classes are being replaced the following year by smaller incoming kindergarten classes. So in 2013, the district graduated 293 students, and the following year, 221 students were enrolled, with a difference being 72 students lost through displacement. So moving forward, if you go down, for the next 5 years, the district is expected to lose between 12 and 84 students each year through that displacement of larger 12th grade cohorts being replaced by smaller kindergarten classes. This shows you by elementary school the change over the next 5 years. As you can see, Netherwood, North Park, and Ralph Smith Elementary Schools are expected to gain a small number of students in each of those schools, while Violet is expected to lose 29 students. Next, we'll look at the facilities section of this study. And I'll be talking about capacity. And so first, what is that? Well, the New York State Education Department, sorry. I'm a little behind it. There we go. Oh, wait a minute. There. The New York State Education Department defines operating capacity as the total number of students a building can reasonably and efficiently house based on the district's class size policy and the number, size, and current use of the rooms within the building. Now it is noted, and this is important, that the actual enrollment by grade in each school will never conform to the available number of seats in each classroom. Therefore, it would be unrealistic to expect utilization levels to be at 100% of capacity. So on this chart, it shows you for each school what the operational capacity is, and then the next column shows you what the current, for this current school year, what the current utilization would be, or is rather. And as you can see, for the 4 elementary schools, the current utilization ranges between 53 and 79%. The middle school, utilization at the middle school is at 83%, and for the high school at 84%. And based on the projected enrollment, the last column shows you what for the next 5 years, what the projected utilization range would be. And then on the next slide, it shows you the actual elementary sectional needs for each elementary school. And as you can see, the district right now houses 65 sections for grades K to 5, and that includes special education sections. And by 2023, it is expected that the district will again need 65 sections in total. To summarize, during the 10-year historical period, there was an enrollment increase of approximately 800 students, or almost 19%, with losses recorded in all grade configurations. A significantly smaller decrease in district enrollment is projected during the next 5 years, with a loss of 106 students. A slight gain is forecasted in the elementary grades, while small losses are projected in the middle and high school grades. So, based on current enrollment trends, all district buildings will have adequate space to accommodate the core and support programs that are currently being offered in the district. So, any questions?
So is 30 students per, I see that, 30 students for grades K through 5, is that the number that we work with?
That's the contractual limit.
That, we are at that, okay, I wasn't sure whether that was accurate.
That's the most there can be.
Right.
And that's
Not
what
necessarily
the,
ideal, but.
that's what the
Right.
capacity was based on,
Right.
that there could be 30 students in each class.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. First of all, thank you. This is a very professional.
Oh, you're welcome.
Report. And I think, in my opinion, this puts to rest any fears in the community that we will anytime in the near future close a school, which is, every time we do a study, then the community comes out, oh, no, you're going to close another school. This shows definitely that we are where we are now, and we're going to stay that way for at least the next 5 years. So this is a really important report for us. Thank you.
Well, good. I'm glad it's helpful, yes.
I just wanted to comment that, again, we're going to post the full report online, and the first part of the report is just an incredible read, because you go from national trends, demographics, birthing patterns, to the state, to the region, to Hyde Park, and to see that flow from national all the way down to Hyde Park is a very interesting read. And it'll be available online, so.
I guess one other question in reference to the utilization question and then the percentage. I understand that you would never be at 100% utilization. Where do you see, in your experience, what do you see kind of as good as it gets type of thing? Is it a 90%? Is it 85%? Is it 95%?
It's hard to say, because it does depend on the programs being offered in the district and, other variables. But I would say generally, particularly for the middle school and high school, if you get somewhere above 85%, then your flexibility in scheduling is compromised. And, and the elementary grades could possibly, could be a little bit higher, but still, I'd say really don't want to be above like 90%. So just like I said, it just limits your flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Barbara.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So next up, we have the Capital Project Planning Group with CS Arch, Palumbo Group, and Elliott.
Actually, we just have Tom and Lou from the Palumbo Group, but we met with the whole group in CS Arch earlier. And this isn't a full-blown, what did I say? Oh, that and out there. This is just a quick update, not a long presentation. We're committed and are committed to periodically giving updates of where we are in space and time with the capital project. So take it away, Elliot.
So good evening, everybody. On May 31st, we received bids for the North Park mechanical upgrades, and I'm going to let Lou Rodriguez and Tom Chester from the Palumbo Group explain where we are and where we're going in the future.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
So, a little over a year ago, you guys successfully passed a $26 million bond, which was great. And we broke this project up into some phases as far as how we were going to submit to SED and everything else. And the first phase was North Park Elementary, and we got those approvals. Just big picture, just to give you an idea of where we were looking to be with North Park as far as the bids were concerned. We were looking to be at $2.5 million all in. The low bids all in came in at 3.1 and change. So that's what you're looking at tonight. And we're looking for recommendation, we made a recommendation on the bids. When you look at each one of the contractors, Really, the big swing was the mechanical component. That's really what differed from our estimate mostly, but all of the, when you look at all of the estimates, including escalation, the big one was the mechanical component that really came out more. So, again, big picture, as we're moving along the $26 million project, this first phase, we wanted to be at 2.5. I'm still holding contingency. We came in at 3.1. What's that mean? We have close to $600,000 that we will need to make up in some fashion or form as we move into the next phases of bidding. And that's going to be really important as we continue to review the documents and everything else. I'll later, if you guys have questions on the budget, the overall budget, I can talk to that more. What I wanted to introduce Tom Cheshire. He's the project manager. He put together the planning for going out to bid for North Park, and just wanted him to give a brief overview of each one of the primes that we're recommending, and also the plan for the work, because I think there's probably questions as far as how soon is Hyde Park or North Park Elementary going to start, and when is that work going to be completed. So I want Tom to talk about that, and then again, big picture dollars. I can answer some of those questions afterwards as well. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. So we put the plan together with the importance of North Park and all the issues that we're having. All the contractors that bid the project, we vetted out, qualified. Most of them we've worked with previous on several occasions. There's one contractor we don't know as well, but we vetted him out. I made contacts. And although we are a little over budget, I feel that it's a very important thing to move forward. And we're actually looking to accelerate moving forward so we can start in the next few weeks. My plan in place starts us as soon as school is out. And the work won't be complete till next year, but if we don't start now, we'll be way behind. So I don't see this going any other way. The numbers are the numbers at this point, and we're getting a good product. We should solve, the design is all there. We didn't skimp on anything to try to reduce money. I think it's important to get the right product. So we believe the contractors have good numbers. We're comfortable with their bids, and we think we should proceed with your approval.
I don't know if there's any slides up there. Elliot, do you know that? Or was that just reiteration? Okay. We did have two pieces of good news come in recently. One is that we did reach out to Train, and we had a meeting. Thanks for your help, Tom. And we've recouped already $45,000 in reusable materials. The other thing on the docket is the project has the potential for qualifying for a NYSERDA rebate, if you will. Yes. So that is an application process, and we're going to aggressively seek the NYSERDA reimbursement that we believe we qualify, and that should help as well. I don't know.
Could be up to $300,000.
Could be up to $300,000. Right. So we plan to go after that aggressively.
Do we, I'm kind of going through the agenda here. Do we have bids to award tonight? I mean, I'm looking in the agenda here and I'm not, no.
No.
Which I thought that's what they were asking for.
Yeah, we sent a recommendation. I don't know if it made it to the agenda or not.
It didn't make it to the agenda.
Okay.
But what we can do is we can pull together a morning meeting. We can send it out today. This all happened within
Yes, days.
days.
We've
like
accelerated
2 days.
everything to get.
So what we'll do is we'll send the information out, and then we'll see if we can pull together a quick morning meeting for that purpose within, we talked about, like early next week, so we'll.
Can we have a discussion about what those bids were? Sure.
Elliot, it's a one-pager. Can we, yeah.
I got it right here.
Yeah.
I got it.
Even I have the names of the people right here.
General contractor bid
Southeast.
General construction bid is Barone Construction, right out of Hyde Park, Highland Falls, sorry, another H. And his bid was $416,000. Our second contract was Southeast Mechanical. That would be the mechanical component for $2,333,000. The third contract is the electrical contractor, which is South Stowe Electric. And he's done work here in the district in the past, and his bid was $238, right? No, $239. And then the last contractor is A-Tech Group. They're the abatement contractor for $138,000. So total's $3,126,000.
So we're looking at low bids of being 3.1, roughly 3.2 million, and we had budgeted 2.5 million. Now, granted, this is the first piece of a much larger, there's a lot of project forward, but, and quite frankly, that's the way the numbers are these days. I mean, it's, and I've worked with 3 of these 4 contractors myself, and, you know, and they're solid contractors, which is a good thing. I mean, the worst thing is to get a high number, or have your best number be somebody that you absolutely don't know, and, you know, and it's a wild card. My concern, and maybe it's a matter of just preparing everybody, is numbers may get better, or numbers may get worse as this project goes on. And realize that approving anything now, and I don't know that we have a choice. You know, when you put all the, you know, it's like, what's the best of the worst options? You know, taking, you know, accepting this, you know, awarding these bids, knowing that you've now spent $600,000 more or $700,000 more than what your ultimate budget was, means that you've got $600,000 or $700,000 worth of something later on that you may not be able to get. And every bid going forward may have this same multiplier, may have this same situation. I mean, we're all kind of waiting to see if all of a sudden, you know, the things are going to change and it's going to turn into, we're going to start seeing better bids. But,
right. We were happy to see Southeast come in as a low bidder. They're looking to move up into this area, so that was fortunate. We're working with BPD, our financial advisors, and monitoring this. And Lou, we're happy that the board had authorized capital reserves, so that whether it's the capital reserve funds or fund balance, eventually we may need to re-examine financing the program. And Jason, usually he's housed in, is it Rochester? But he pretty much phones into all of our meetings, so our financial advisors are with us every step of the way. Lou has this on his radar, Tom, too, to say, okay, so how do we look at the rest of the projects moving forward? Are there different ways we can configure them? Also, there was a little bit of a change in North Park where we determined we weren't going to use the unit ventilators prudently, to say, why replace in kind with something that we're trying to fix? And so what might be different about the North Park escalating costs, Tom's shaking his head vigorously, is the fact that this part of the project, we did change the scope, and we don't anticipate needing to do this type of a change with FDR or Haviland, because they're very straightforward and we don't have the issues. But I think what's reassuring to me is that even though the costs, which we're going to have to worry about with all escalating costs, and, you know, we've been talking about this since last year, but that we did hit the pause button to change the scope to get it right for North Park. So that's something that we don't anticipate encountering with FDR and Haviland. So we also met with Train Mechanical, who is supplying a large portion of this, and we really talked about the finances, and we basically sat down. Tom helped us with some script, and Elliot Garcia with some of the historic, and, you know, we laid it out on the table. You want to continue working with us, and if Train we have options, and so he explained why we were surprised a little, and what really was behind the numbers, and also is going back to the drawing board to see what he can do. So it might not be a lot of wiggle room, but hey, bringing people in and talking with them, any movement can help. So we feel that we have a team approach, both with the Palumbo Group and CS Arch, to say, you know what, we get it, we're just starting a $26 million project and we're 600,000 over. Let's monitor this very closely.
Yeah. Which, by the way, 600,000 is 20%.
Yep.
So we're not, this isn't a $26 million, it's a $2.5 million project, and we're 700,000. Is that a normal miss? I mean, to me, that seems like a high miss, right?
The problem is that the market is so dynamic right now that it's just, the bidding is going crazy everywhere. Contractors are just seeing this as an opportunity to make money. I hate to say that, but I really think that they're taking advantage of the situation, and there's only just so many contractors, and the point is, they can throw a higher number out now because there's so many projects that are out to bid. They say, look, I'll put a number on this, if it doesn't, if I don't get it, I'll get the next one, maybe I'll be a little more aggressive on the next one, or maybe I will get it, because you don't, how many bids did we get? How many?
We got a good turnout. We had 5 mechanical bids,
okay,
and that's the biggest component, so.
Yeah, so.
We had a good bid turnout.
It's the market, and I will tell you that every school district is going through it. Pine Plains.
Didn't we know that when we came up with the 2.5?
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's important when we talk about the $2.5 million budget, it was a different design. So right now, we're talking about it's called a direct outside air system. So we're not doing a direct UV replacement, which is it's an easier way to go. But because of the issues you've been encountering at North Park, we went to a better design that would deal with the humidity issues that you were going there. So when you look at the mechanical component by itself, when you look at that bid was, out of the 600, that's $450,000 just on the mechanical side that was higher than what I had projected. And we all talked about that. We knew it was coming, but as far as the design and what's right for North Park, that's what we agreed as a team to move forward. And again, this is a recommendation. I mean, you as a board, when the recommendation comes, it's not something that has to be taken. I think that we all knew that the mechanical component was going to go up.
So was there a new invention in the past 6 months? I mean, why, if this is a better solution, we did all this research for the best solution, and now when it comes to bid, we change it. So is this a new thing that just came out?
No, it's there's probably 4 different ways to attack it. It's
better before?
With public school systems, what's tough is that you're talking about dollars and cents, right? So when we put together the project for the community to vote on, we went with the most economical approach. After it was approved, because remember, that was approved in February of 2018. So we're over a year and a half later. There are new designs, there are new techniques, there's new ways of looking at things. We decided as a team to go in a different route. So, overall, I think it's a positive thing. You're going to have a great product. When you look at the rest of the project, we still have $17 million worth of work, right, hard dollars, that's associated with FDR and Haviland. And what we have to do as a team is be really particular and really stringent and not allow any type of scope creep. North Park in particular, we said we want to do we wanted to step it up because of the kind of exposure it was getting with all the community and everybody else being very particular. We weren't going to make a miss on this one. So, it's a tough conversation. And like Perry said, right now the market's flush. It's flush, and it's going to be flush for a while. There's projects, right now, there's projects 3 to 5 years out, constantly. The Hudson Valley's growing. The demographics show that people want to continue to move in the area, and it's a good thing.
But I don't think it's that, right? I think what you just said, if I heard correctly, $450,000 was because we changed the design out of the 600. So to me...
It's a high-efficiency design. It's a high-efficiency...
If we kept the original design, we were only off $150,000, which to me seems reasonable in that. But since we changed the design, now we're up to a larger number.
We did make the change in September when we had the issue at North Park. We looked at alternate options rather than the Utilization.
Yeah, I get it.
Airing right off the ground.
So it really isn't because of contractor gaffing us. We changed the design, which is $450,000 more expensive.
It's a more sophisticated design.
I get that, and I understand, and I
It's a
think that's
fully
the better...
ducted system from the roof as opposed to
Right.
univentilators that were just plug and play across the exterior of the building. Yeah. So it's
I get it, yeah.
Yep.
The biggest thing to think about is if we don't move forward, the market's not going to, you're not going to get a better number waiting, and you're still going to have problems continuing, so.
Yeah, but that's not the question. This is a learning process, right? And as we go, we'll continue to, talk about it. I think we're in a good position in that we did get a lot of, guys that came and looking at it. We had really good turnout on it, and I think that's a really good thing. And when you look at each one of the bids, the hazmat bid was only $10,000. $15,000 over our mark. The electrical contract was actually $11,000 under our mark. The GC actually went up because of the additional duct work we were doing. We had more ceiling tile work and whatnot. So they were like $150,000 over our mark, but that was expected because of the additional ceiling work. And then you got the HVAC side, which was...
My original concern was the percentage was so far for 2.5. If you take that same percentage and apply it to the bigger number, we're going to be in trouble. But it sounds like you did a good job at the original design, but because the design changed, that is why we're getting such a big number.
When you look at the scope of work that was original to North Park, we were very particular and specific to that scope of work, and we did design, as a team, we decided to come up, and I agreed, it's a better design. It's a much better design for that building. Yep.
Yeah, that last minute, replacing kind or do the right thing. And it really came down to do the right thing when we started to talk about what that system could do.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to ask him to go on to just talk about the timeline, but...
I just have another question about this. My concern isn't so much about the integrity of the design or the integrity of the bids, and that I'm concerned about how are we going to go forward, trying to bridge this gap in our budget. I know you mentioned that we have some grants or something you're looking into.
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, there are contingencies built in.
Right.
And that is part of the process where we have to have a certain percentage of contingencies built in for things coming over. So we hope to see that $600,000 come in when all is said and done. That's one piece.
Right.
The second piece is that we have, we got 45,000 more, but that's like a drop in the bucket for 600,000, but I'll take it. We are going to aggressively go after the NYSERDA incentive, which could be up to $300,000. We have to apply for that. We're going to work on that. And, we've put money aside in the capital reserve, so we don't anticipate this kind of a gap with FDR and Haviland. We expect some escalation costs. Escalation costs are built in to the contingency. So we're hoping that we don't see this kind of, large increase again. And we're prepared to say this is the design we need to support. We're going to aggressively go after 300,000. We're hoping to come in a little under with maybe some contingency. We can't promise that. And we have our capital reserve fund.
Okay.
So, you don't want to deplete all your money in the bank, but we're not without money in the bank for this.
Yeah, and I tend to round up, so I'm
Yes.
actually, it's not 600, it's 580. It's 580 that we're off the mark. You take the 45,000, that's getting us to a better place, and if we're able to get some more NYSERDA money, I think that's a great position to be in. Also, within the contracts, there's $60,000 in allowance, money's built. And outside of that, I also have another 150,000 in contingency that I'm built into that number.
I didn't think you were going to share all those specific numbers there, Lou.
Hey.
You're not, yeah.
Yeah, I'm that guy, yeah, so, but moving ahead, we're gonna really, get down on the numbers. We have a budget for FDR, and we have to be specific to that budget. Each building has a budget, and I'm gonna be holding hard fast to where we're gonna be before we go out to bid. What's gonna be coming up, we are going to be getting construction SED documents that are going to the state. We will be getting those documents for FDR and for Haviland, and we will be doing another set of estimates on those documents, and that's going to give us a really good picture, and we're going to send out, on the mechanical side, we're going to send out the drawings for pricing just for the mechanical equipment, just to make sure that for, the summer of 2020, when we start looking at doing work, what kind of dollars are guys going to be holding for mechanical equipment, at that time. So I think that's pretty important, and I am holding 7% in escalation for the next 2 years. So.
Do you think we lost any opportunity for leverage in the bids by separating them like this versus, hey, you already have your equipment and your people here in the same vicinity, and then you move into the next school?
No.
Startup cost for each?
No, because when you look at, the total mechanical components across each one of the buildings, we're talking over $10 million worth of just mechanical. There's no local mechanical contractor that can bid or bond that large of a project. The bids varied from $2.3 to $3.3 million, and that's a good size mechanical project for anyone locally. And we want the local contractors to be bidding the work. So again, I think we feel good about where we are. We feel good about the product. We're going to continue to challenge Train to make sure they're sharpening their pencil and move on with this first phase of work. So. Good.
Could I just say something about the potential use of capital reserve? If we are going to go that route, we wouldn't determine that until after we did the bids for the next phases, because we'd see where that is. But also, we would have to have the voters approve the use of that. So we just have to keep that in mind, that, we'd probably prefer to have that at a regular vote rather than having a separate vote just for that.
Right.
But it is something we need to consider.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
You were going to have them talk timeline, though?
Oh, sorry.
Come on.
Yeah. Just minimally, can you walk us through what part of the project will be done this summer?
So this summer, we're doing all the prep work for these special units to come in the fall, because obviously contract award, we wouldn't get them made that soon. So we'll have everything ready. So in the fall, off hours, the units can be set, hooked up, and we'll start some work through the school year that we can get at, and then the final piping and the rest of the ductwork would finish next summer.
So the system itself will not be operational till the summer of 2020?
That's correct. All the piping won't be ready until next year.
So when you look at the work that's happening, what's going to happen this summer is structural steel reinforcement work for the units going on the roof, and just really planning for in the submittal and approval process. The submittal and approval process and the lead time for mechanical equipment right now is running 16 to 20 weeks. So today, if I bought a piece of equipment, we're going to have it at the end of the summer, so it's not going to be here for use. Like Tom said, the supply and return piping, so what's happening is this whole building is going to be converted to a hot water system. Right now it's steam, so the building's going to be working off steam throughout the year, but in parallel, through crawl spaces and through chases, we're going to be running hot water piping, and the units are going to be set on the roof. So what's going to happen is when we come to the summer of 2020, we're really going to be in a position where, the major thing that has to be done once the boiler system's down is going to be the conversion of the boiler from steam to hot water. That'll take care of the heat side of things. The cooling side, we'll push as much as we can to see what we can do for the spring and for the summer. But, pushing cool air, if we can dehumidify the building, we'd love to do that, because they are two separate operating systems. We got the heating side, and then we got it's not AC, it's dehumidification.
So now you mentioned you're going to be doing reinforcing and some roof work and stuff, structural stuff. Is that going to create additional concerns of abatement? Are we opening up more of the building, or are we affecting areas where we might run into?
There's no abatement. In the areas that we're doing the work, there's no abatement. We have abatement scheduled for next summer.
All right.
However, the abatement contractor and the general contractor may look to accelerate that and do some of that work this summer. It'll be up beyond the roof, so.
I was just wondering what had we planned in this summer for...
I didn't look into that this summer, otherwise we would have had a harder time getting bids.
Because the experience I've had with it over the years I've been here is that the abatement creates some issues with staff in the summer and needs to do work and stuff like that. Suddenly part of the building's put off limits because of, and it can mess things up, and I'm just making sure we're keeping track of that so we're not going to adversely affect the opening date of the school for the fall semester.
Yeah, but with that said, pretty much North Park is closed for the summer. We're relocating the office staff, and it will be a small window to allow people to come in and set up rooms and to,
Are we actually moving the teachers' equipment and stuff out of the building, and they're going to move it back in, or are we going to...
No, at the faculty meeting, it was explained what exactly had to be covered, what had to be moved away from the wall, what had to be packed up. Elliot's gone to the faculty meetings to explain exactly what needed to be done to prep the rooms for the summer.
And he's back, so it couldn't have been too bad.
Yeah. He gave him good news first. He changed the paper towels. It started with something positive, but yeah, so it's going to be, we're also just, we're doing the well at North Park this summer. That's a whole separate project. The water will be off for
August 8th. Or, I'm sorry, September.
July 8th, yeah. So there won't even be water because of the well project, and for the other work we can, so it's going to be a big...
Been running, we could supply all the water for that building just out of the holding tanks for the field.
Yeah.
And in the middle of all this, we're going to have the school year, in the middle of all this work. So this is, they're still going to be fine in those classrooms. Everybody's going to be happy in those classrooms.
No.
Happy.
Okay, thank you.
Like ninjas, we're not here.
Okay.
The second shift work, so.
Well, they will find candy on every teacher's desk every Monday.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, technology update.
No, I thought it was, is it Patrick?
No?
Did we change it?
No.
Is yours the last, Patrick? I'm sorry. Well, you're staying for the whole... Save the best for the last, okay.
Good point.
Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, we tried for the...
We hope we are.
We're good.
I hope so. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Rick Wirt, Director of Technology, and this is the second report for the year. And the focus of this one was how we're integrating the technology into the schools with students. So What we did is we tried to pull as much data for you as we could. I'm realizing now on this television that white on light gray is probably not the best, but this first slide is really about technology integration. So we have one person we hire through BOCES. As you know, it was supposed to be 2 people part-time. They could never find that second part-time person. So Julianne Rice-Kleiman really, BOCES lent us a 4th day instead of the required 3 in order to help make up the difference. And she has a schedule that basically a teacher can click onto the website, choose a time, and get either coaching, modeling, pairing, whatever they need in order to help them integrate the technology. The chart on the right is a partial accounting. This runs much longer if you look at everything that's been done. That chart is a combination of the work that Julianne has done. Therese McKen over here on the left does a ton of PD in the buildings. She does a monthly PD in every building, and they're usually pretty well attended. A couple other people do some as well. If you look at all that training, for instance, the grand total is about 600 hours of training this year and 1,800 participants. Some of those people are obviously duplicates. So Michelle's gone 4 or 5 times to different trainings. Google training is alone 162 hours. It's the largest amount of training we've done this year. This is all documented through My Learning Plan, and Julianne has a system with her calendar where it's logging the hours, because I asked her to do that for me. So I know which people she's seen, how many times, and the topic, and how long she spends with them. The last 2 are not documented, peer-to-peer and student-to-teacher. What we know is when we leave a building and there's a website training, the teacher who was there often works with their colleagues. That's the peer-to-peer training. That's a really powerful kind of training that's not documented, and we know it's going on because teachers tell us it's going on. The other one is actually student-to-teacher. We did a student survey. I'll share those results in a little bit. A couple of my favorite comments from high school kids were, I keep having to show my teacher how to mirror their Chromebook. That kind of training is actually priceless as well, where the students are helping. They're co-learners with teachers. That's brilliant. That's beautiful and the kind of thing you want to see. And when you see it in the elementary schools where these little 6, 7 years old, the digital natives, as Greer often says, these kids who've grown up with technology in their hands, are helping veteran teachers because it's a foreign world for some folks. So there's some really powerful stuff going on. I think the training is really good. We're looking next year at some person from BOCES will be back. We assume it's Julianne. Don't know for sure. And then, of course, we're hoping to add somebody in the district budget as well. We're still working out the details of that.
Teacher on special assignment, one of our own.
Yeah. So our goal in tech services is just to keep increasing the amount of training. What we like about what we do is it's a mix of PDs and it's also on demand. So if somebody needs help, we give them help when they need it for what they need it. So Google Suite is sort of our big thing. It's the central tenet of our technology, if you will. It's what our Gmail accounts are, even though they don't say Gmail, it's Gmail. So just as we have over 6,000 active Gmail accounts. That's students, staff. Gmail, 2,925 sent, 28,000 received. That's one day. Google Classroom, 287 active classrooms. That means it's not just Google Classroom like I create them in training and then walk away from it and don't use it again. That's 287 where the teacher's actually posting stuff, students are posting stuff. It's an active classroom. And that's the last 14 days. 133 posts were made by teachers in that same time. So it's an active solution. It's being used. And lots of other statistics up there about spreadsheets and documents and presentations. So we did a very brief survey. This is not a comprehensive survey. We didn't get into a lot of demographic questions. We didn't get into a lot of detailed questions. We wanted it short, less than 5 questions. We want to just get some really straightforward data from the teachers. So first question, do you believe that student learning is enhanced by the integration of technology into instruction? So this is sort of a belief question. We wanted to see where their mindset's at. Elementary, over, I would say 75% said yes. Middle school, a little bit lower, the maybes, I'll get to that in a second. And then the high school is around 50%. The maybes were really interesting to me because you'll see there's a higher percentage at the high school, but the maybes were really, they had reasons behind it. If used appropriately, if used with guidance, sometimes used too much, if students use it as a learning tool. So the focus became very much about are they using it for what we want them for, or for doing those things that we don't want them to do? The elementary school, you ask a kid to do something, they'll do it. As the kids get older, they start to wander a little bit, and my interpretation is that's what you're seeing with the maybes. Do students use Chromebooks in your classroom during the school day? So from left to right, the elementary, the dark blue all the way over to the light blue, that's 1 day, 0 days, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and so on. So you can see there's this nice little bump in the middle, and all the way on the right, 5 days a week. Some teachers are saying they're using it 5 days a week. Middle school, kind of a similar curve, again, a big bump in the middle, and the high school a little more towards the lower end. The N, the number of respondents, you can see it's more than 10% of the staff responded, and it's proportional by the buildings. Those are percentages, so it's not skewed by numbers. When we asked them, what were your challenges, your successes, and your suggestions, they came back with these comments. This was actually free text. What I did was I tried to chunk those responses down into a couple key points. And they were spot on. So, and these are, by the way, in order of most responses in this category. So the number one challenge the teachers felt was getting software is sometimes challenging, and it is. There's costs associated. We have to check SIPA, COPPA, all the student privacy data stuff.
Yeah, where do we get to Ed Law 200, the PII? It's confusing.
Yeah, well, it's
coming up, Ed.
Yep. Yeah. Limitations, applications, slow internet, which my network technicians bristle at. But keeping students safe online is a very big concern. And then training. Teachers feel they need training, weak student typing skills. And I think that may be because we're not doing the old QWERTY keyboard, they're doing the two-thumb approach in some cases. Collection is too early. And, Mr. Spence, who's a tech director at other district, we were commiserating on Chromebook collection, how everybody wants them collected the very last day, and we can't wait that long. Student focus on social lives, I would say that comment goes back, about 7,000 years, and student devices not charged or not present. The successes, there were many. The WeVideo is a program that we're starting to use for video clips, and they had kids create supporting arguments after visiting a zoo about should we have zoos or not, using WeVideo. Video clips for tutorials. The best one I heard there was a phys ed teacher. So a gymnastics unit where you have these different stations. It used to be the phys ed teachers running around trying to reteach each section so the kids could stay on task. They put a Chromebook up at each station with a GIF of the movement, and then could go around and just focus on teaching as opposed to reteaching that simple little movement the kids were asked to do. I thought that was great. Digital presentations, you can read the whole list, but there's a lot there. If you were here earlier, there was a slideshow going up with pictures of what's going on around the district. This is kind of those things. And then suggestions, training with follow-up. Training for staff, collaborative opportunities with other teachers on tech integration, how-to guides, train students on how to properly use devices, and class sets instead of one-to-one. And for myself, I do like the training suggestions. I would love to spend more time teaching teachers how to use this technology because there's more that we can be doing with it. We also surveyed the students, and I got to tell you, we were thrilled with the amount of response and the cogent responses, the thought that went into these things. So first, do you use a Chromebook, a school Chromebook at home? And never, rarely, sometimes, often, and daily. So it's a nice little bell curve. Blue is high school, red is middle school. Red, we sort of anticipate that there's going to be more usage in the middle school. They've had them now for 3 years in the one-to-one program. The high school's had them for 2 years. Plus, the elementary kids come up with them, so those guys have had them in their hands a lot longer. And we talked about the training aspects of that. By the way, the numbers, 313 respondents all total of kids, that's up another 100. So right now I have 400 responses sitting on that survey. And then in which classes use Chromebooks during the school day, that's broken out by high school and then middle school on the bottom, so you can kind of see what their interpretation of which classes are using. That information was mainly for me, because that helps me direct my training staff on which teachers to kind of go in and nudge a little bit. Where can we get the most bang for our buck when we're doing training? And then, same thing, what are the challenges, successes, and suggestions? The biggest challenge the kids brought up, again, was that not all teachers are using that. They'll walk into a classroom and the teacher says, don't bother bringing it, we're not going to use it. And it was primarily a high school comment. The other one is that they prefer their personal devices. Tracy Ainsley said it was unbelievable. She watched a kid type a 5-page essay on their phone, and it was really well written. They grow up with different devices, and they're comfortable with them, and they use them. So we're starting to question, as kids get older, is it worthwhile to say, you must take this device and put it in your locker and don't look at it again, as opposed to just use the device that you're comfortable with? So we're starting to debate those things in my office. Some Chromebooks don't work well. Filtering's too restrictive, some students abuse the privilege, and limited if no internet at home. That last one is my biggest concern. The best comments that I saw were about those kids where they don't have a device, they don't have access to technology, they feel like this has allowed them to organize themselves, participate more with teachers, get feedback, do research, learn how to type a word. Those are the kids I want to get to, and if they don't have internet at home, that's sort of our next thing maybe to look at as a district, and there are solutions out there that will do this. It's just, again, money, time. Successes, the kids said they liked the online quizzes and tests, and some of it's because of how the teachers structure that. Back in the day, I would take a quiz, hand the paper in, hope to get it back in a day or two. Now they take an online quiz, they get automatic feedback, immediate feedback on how they did on that question, can get a quick tutorial, and then retake the quiz. There's a teacher who's actually doing, you can retake it every 24 hours if you want to, and to get the score you want. Google Classroom, just for organization, there are kids out there who need that crutch about, I forgot to write the homework down, I can click here and get that homework. Assistive screen readers, we had a number of responses from kids where they need the computer to read to them. They need to be able to enlarge the text. It's helping them. Suggestions, they'd like choice. They'd like more training for the teachers. That was the second highest response, which I found fantastic. They want us to get rid of filtering, which will not be happening. The next one, get rid of auto log-off policy. We are working on that, actually. They would love the teachers to post grades and homework online. They would love it if we replaced textbooks, and they would love to engage in more interactive activities. So how is the technology being used? And again, if you didn't have a chance to see that slideshow earlier, I didn't attach it to the board report because there's a lot of pictures of kids in there, and I haven't done the work of seeing which kids are allowed to be photographed and which aren't. So I can't publish that to the web, but I'm happy to show it to you. These are 4 examples. In the district, when I began in this role a couple years ago, they were focused on the SAMR model, substitution, which is, I'm going to draw a picture of a spider on a piece of paper, or I'm going to draw it on a computer. It's just switching one thing for another. It's no real change to the task or the product. So there's an example of substitution. Augmentation. The technology enhances a bit. So in that example, there's a little video clip in the slideshow is playing. 2 kids had to record a dialogue of themselves in Spanish talking about food. Instead of just videotaping themselves in the kitchen, which other kids did and it was fine, they animated it. They used a program to animate the whole dialogue. They created a really neat sequence with the food. So they changed the task just a little, they changed the product a little bit through technology. Modification, this is where you actually just change how it looks and maybe even how the thing is done. This was an interactive science board at Ralph R. Smith. So instead of just the static information, you could also check out the digestive system through pressing different little buttons and things. It was actually a really well done project. You can see the wires in the back going down to a Chromebook. And then redefinition, this is actually where you change the task and change the product. So in that example, through the extended day program, and Jen Kreiser, Amy, Julianne Ross Kleiman really ran with this. They ordered VR kits, virtual reality kits. So what these kids were able to do is do a virtual reality walk of Mexico, and then they had a distance learning experience with a teacher in a whole different place talking to them about Mexico, and then leading them in an activity from a distance. So there is some amazing stuff going on out there. The little video I created has, I think, 4 or 5 pictures of each thing. They last for 5 seconds. It goes for 10 minutes. And even today, I had 2 more piles of photos coming at me saying, could you include this? People were excited to share their work. There was some great stuff that happened out there.
We could put
Is it
that up on the
100%?
website,
No.
yeah.
There are teachers who are not using the technology. And that, to me, is a training thing. That's where we need to get out there and help them figure out why they're reluctant to do it. I think there's a lot happening at the elementary. There's a bunch happening at the middle school, and there's some happening at the high school. That Spanish example is from a high school foreign language teacher who said, I'm willing to try it, help me, and Julianne helped her, and her kids produced some great work. So there's good stuff happening. So at that, I'll pause for questions. I don't know if I've answered all the questions you had.
Just, I don't know, well, math, it's kind of hard to do it by Chromebook, so that kind of explains it. But on your charts for your student feedback, on your line chart for the high school, what's your scale?
Line chart, hang on.
Yeah, 50, 100, and 150.
Oh, that one, okay. So in which classes do you use Chromebooks?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
just
so
trying to
we'll go
figure out how do you break that down?
All right, so
That top one, yeah.
I had the laser eye surgery, and I can see really good close-up. I can't see distance. Hold on. So there were 198 respondents at the high school. That scale goes up to 150 because the highest number was 125, and that was in never and math. So 125 kids said in math,
Okay.
we never use technology.
It's
We don't
based on
use
number of
Chromebooks.
students. Okay,
Yes.
it's not a percentage.
The math teachers, so the side of that, the math teachers, what I saw in the responses was they still felt there was great value in just doing the pencil and paper work for, because there's some value to this movement when you're learning. And they felt the strength in that.
Yeah, and that's not to say they're not using their interactive whiteboards all the time in math. They're
That's
just
a
not the
whole different-
Chromebooks.
Yeah,
That's a
this
whole
was just
different-
focused on Chromebooks.
So,
I see the TVs on everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where, and again, some are just display boards, but some are interactive and they're done really well. Jump in anytime, Patrick, because you're in the front line.
Yeah.
All right. Does that explain the scale?
Yep.
Okay.
Rick, in the the teacher feedback, the top two suggestions were training, but yet,
Yes.
your first chart showed a lot of training. So do they want more or more effective training?
So I think, so I'm going to interpret it my own way first, because it's hard to interpret other people, but I know my own piece. There are voluntary PDs. You stay after school, you come in early before school. And then there's mandatory training. My sense is people are looking for that mandatory training where everyone needs to be there. Because even at the high school, where Therese has done Google Sites training, we get 4 or 5 people, and often the same 4 or 5 people. So I'm reaching a limited audience even with Julianne, who's out there, will come in when you want her to. And during your prep, during a class, during whatever, there's still even limited engagement about that. So my own sense is training it needs to be when we're required to be here.
Another, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Another component of that is that's why the teacher on special assignment we want primarily at the high school. We have an easier training model. Don't forget, we were down half the amount of trainers we wanted. The trainer that we had from BOCES did primarily spend time at the elementary and middle schools. And former high school teacher accuse me of the same thing. There's a comfort zone, there's a different style of teaching when you're teaching in these 35-minute blocks. There's just a different way of embedding technology into a high school lesson. So we're hoping that a big part of the training issue is addressed with the teacher on assignment, who will be a high school person. We really want a known entity because, again, we have some rock stars right in our own school district, and the high school people respond really well to one of their colleagues being the trainer, so we're hoping to see some of the training issues addressed with having a teacher on special assignment right there in their building.
Yeah.
So.
Just trying to catch up, so the greatest number of responses on one question, I think you said it was 150?
In this, yeah, so you had 104 responses, 41 from the elementary, 21 from Howard, and 42 from staff. That was the total responses, so out of the whole...
So what percentage?
This one's a percentage, yeah. This is 35% of the high school people were saying 2 times a week.
Right, but so how many people, in your survey, how many people participated in your survey? What percentage?
104.
104 out of a
104
possible...
staff.
Out of a possible of how many?
300.
Okay, so one of the things that I've read, and I've seen this a few times now on technology, is that there's 3 groups of people in technology. You have a group who are going to dive into it, they're going to take all they can get, they want all they can get. You've got a group that are always going to, they're going to work at it, but it's work for them. I mean, they're going to work at it, and then you've got a certain number of people who just, it doesn't matter. You can force them to go to training, and it's not going to matter. I am very much in favor of, you know what, don't waste your time on those who aren't interested.
Yeah.
Move on. Let's not waste our resources on people who are not interested. And I don't care where they are in their career, you know, if they're early or if they're late. Let's move on with those who really want to work on it, because it's, you know, there used to be this old book about, you know, who moved my cheese. And that's really what this is that technology, you know, and hey, I'm in the middle. I'm the one struggling with it. It doesn't come easy for me.
Right.
I know that it's there. I know I've got to work with it. But I want to make sure we're using our resources for those best teachers who are really going to take it and run with it. And that's not to say that those who aren't embracing the technology aren't good teachers. It's just that your mission is technology, is moving forward with technology, and I would just encourage that, you know, let's stay focused. And I like the idea of people being, you know, having that sounds like a drop-in session kind of thing, or being able to make an appointment. That's great. I mean, I think
it's powerful. The only thought I would give to you about that, and I think about the student survey data where they said, you know, I walk in and they'd tell us to put the Chromebook away. And this is a kid who's for 3 years used a Chromebook at Haviland, and they're used to typing response. I will be honest. If you ask me to take paper notes, I will not be able to read my paper notes. I type everything for a reason. There are kids like me out there. There are kids like out there who need that screen reader. They need that interactivity. They need whatever it may be that technology offers them. Even for that teacher who is an amazing teacher and doesn't use technology ever, I'm okay with that. As long as they allow the student the choice to use that technology if it enhances their education. And I think that's the trade-off. And the other piece I would give is they all can't say no to technology because there are pieces of their job that require technology, like e-school data and taking attendance. So I think there's inroads for every person, and I'm never going to give up on anybody. My goal is that everybody will at least try.
I'm only talking about we've got limited resources.
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure we're not spending limited resources, you know, the precious resource that we have on people that you're just not going to turn around.
Yeah. We had the bigger problem where our most technology literate teachers were starting to take all the time for the technology integrator because, oh, I can do that, and they'd want to try the next big thing. And wait, we need to refocus and help those people who are either starting or in the middle, like you were saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, absolutely.
So on the question we had about using personal devices, are you looking at trying to change that in the high school, using personal?
I'm going to start getting things thrown at the back of my head. BYOD is kind of a scary, scary topic. And Therese actually did some research today based on the conversation we had this morning. There's not many people doing it in the area because you open yourself up to lots and lots of issues. So what we're starting to do is study this. And I think by next year, I might start looking at some kind of recommendation. I don't think we're ready to go there yet. You have filtering issues, you have just the kid, so like, sorry, Denise, can I throw you under bus? Yes. I'm doing it now because I already said it.
Go ahead.
Denise has been having trouble logging into our wireless. So we had to sit at her machine and set it up for her. Now, we could have started over her shoulder and said, click there, click there, click there. There's real concern about us touching private machines, because then we take some ownership of it. So it's concerns like that we have to work through in a methodical way. I'm not ready to go to BYOD. Maybe in a year we can talk about what it could look like. I think what I would like to do, and this is way too early to make a recommendation, but just right now where my head is at, elementary is going great with carts. If anything, I would say more carts, one for each classroom. They're using them really well. The middle school is doing great with the one-to-one. The kids appreciate it. They're using them. The teachers are using them. It's going great. For the high school, the kids want choice. They want to be able to use their device. So my own thinking is this, right now, this is not the plan, is that next year when we're handing out Chromebooks, you want a Chromebook, you take a Chromebook. There's, in that survey, about 200 kids who said, I need it. Then there's a group that said, I don't want it, I'll never use it. We're not going to make them take it. They want it, they still have to participate in the digital homework. If they need a device, we'll get them a device, either for the day, maybe for an hour, maybe for a week. I think there's ways we can work through this that works out for the kids. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's where my head's at right now. We have a lot of work to do this summer to figure it all out. But, we had enough kids, brought the Chromebook back, still had the original plastic wrap on the top, and the battery was dead because it had never been charged. So why am I going to make that kid take a Chromebook next year? As long as they're still responsible for completing the work and they were prepared for class, I'd be fine not forcing them to take it. Okay? Yeah?
No, yeah, I was just going to say, as a student, I mean, the Chromebooks are great. Like, we use them almost every day. It depends on the class and the teacher, but with the option to take it, a lot of teachers just feel more comfortable if a student is working on a Chromebook rather than their phone, just because, they'll be able to kind of know what they're doing more, because on your phone you can do whatever you want. You make it look like you're doing work, but on the Chromebook you're going to have to do what's in front of you, so
Yeah.
that would just be why a teacher would be more comfortable with each student having their own. And it really just makes it easier. If we're doing a worksheet or something, we can just do some quick research on our Chromebook instead of having to, can I go to the computer lab and do this, or print this? It just makes everything so much easier and quicker to get everything done.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Rick.
Well, one more piece of news. We just checked, and the smart bond, our last smart bond for the security cameras, $198,000 that we submitted over a year ago, is now finally before the review board. It's the last step. So once we get that approval, we can actually move forward with the security camera initiative. So just got that update, some, yay, go team. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So next up, the academic recommendations from Patrick.
While Patrick's setting up, I just don't want Rachel to be afraid back there. We try to keep our board meetings to 3 presentations tops, but the capital project was an add-on, and certainly the enrollment study was a little long, so we don't want to scare you away. Okay.
Just bring a lunch.
Patrick, wasn't your first meeting really long?
Yeah, it was.
That's what I thought.
It was. It was really long.
Okay, so before I start, I just want to thank the board for everything you guys have done. This has been a great experience for me, really eye-opening. It's really great that our school district does this to give everyone, the students, more of a representation and stuff, and I know next year you'll be in great hands with Rachel, so. Okay. Click this. So these are my academic recommendations for the upcoming school year and obviously for the future. So, my first proposition is some additional classes. So the first class that I am suggesting that we offer is a history class on the Roosevelts. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that we haven't really had this class already, considering the name of our school, Hyde Park, is really known for FDR. And there's a thing called place-based education. This is a theory that when students learn about where they're from or a unique history from their town, they will be more likely to excel in other classes and other aspects of education. So I think this would really be beneficial towards the students. The next class is a class on Black history. We have such a diverse population and community at FDR. I just feel that we need more opportunities to embrace this diversity. We have obviously the Black History Month, the Assembly, but I feel like we just need more to really embrace the beauty and culture that is in FDR. And this circles back to place-based education, where these students can learn about where they're from and be proud of who they are, and it'll help them throughout the rest of their education. The next is a pre-algebra course. So this is a stretch course over 2 years. This is for the students coming into 9th grade, because algebra is a 9th grade class, who really struggle with math. There are students in Haviland who take algebra in 8th grade. There are students who just take 8th grade math, and these are for the students who really, really struggle. This would give them 2 years to complete algebra. So Algebra 1 would be split up into Algebra A and Algebra B.
Thank you.
I know from my personal experience when I took algebra, I took it in 9th grade, the class was very split. Half the class would be able to understand the topic or whatever we were learning within 1 to 2 days. The other class may take a week or more. So this is detrimental to both sides of the class, because the students who are ready to move on, they may be held back at times. But the students who are not sometimes are left in the dust, because we got to keep moving because there's a Regents at the end of the year. So this would give the students who really struggle the opportunity to learn at their pace, and then the students who are great at math to kind of keep it moving how they like. And the last is an American Sign Language. I know this used to be offered at FDR. Just some benefits would, it's known to improve motor skills. It'll develop an awareness to cultural and linguistic diversity. It'll be offered as an additional language like the Spanish and French. It'll really help FDR and the students at FDR stand out. You don't know of many schools who offer an American Sign Language class. So this is really could be something different that our school can do and that our students can have on their resume when they're, going to college, applying for jobs. It's uncommon for someone who's not deaf to know American Sign Language. Next is a life skills class. So I gave this class its own kind of recommendation because it's much bigger than the last classes. It's much more to it. So this would focus on personal finance, personal care, and volunteerism. These three things are things that are really, really important, and I'm realizing now how important they are, graduating and becoming more and more independent, having to know about these things when I'm lucky that I have a family that supports me who can teach me these things, but a lot of students really don't. So with personal finance would come budgeting, how to manage day-to-day financial transactions, so that would be checkbooks and online pay. The reason I included online pay is because that's Apple Pay, Venmo, Cash App, those are becoming more and more relevant with our times, and students have to understand what they're doing when they click the transfer button to send $20 to their friends. They really have to know what that means. Credit and debit cards, I'm sure if you asked most of the students at FDR, they wouldn't know what credit is, how to get out of debt, what debt really is. So and investing for big purchases and retirement. At this time, we're told that we have to really start putting away for retirement now just because of the times are changing, stuff like that. So this really is really important stuff that students are not always taught, that they're kind of stuck to learn on their own, that we can offer these students to know. So next would be the personal care. This goes with mental health. Mental health is something that is really looked past just throughout society, not just in schools. It's really, really important for education and just living your day-to-day life. Along with mental health would come physical health. That's kind of self-explanatory. Then organizational skills, laundry and cleaning. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to know how many students are going off to college and they've never done their own laundry before, or their rooms are a mess, or with the organizational skills comes not just in your life, but keeping your backpack in check, keeping your binders, your classes all separate. These are all really, really important things that are bigger than just school that you carry with you through the rest of your life. And the rest is healthy cooking. I didn't know that we had this, but FDR actually has a separate kitchen in the cafeteria where students would be able to go and learn how to cook these simple, healthy meals. And then the last is volunteerism. Volunteering is something that not enough people do anymore. I feel like people need to be volunteering more and more and more, and this also, once again, circles back to place-based education, where students, they'll have pride from where they're from. They're giving back to their community. And this isn't just talking about the ways that we can volunteer. This is bringing students out to volunteering opportunities, the soup kitchen, the homeless shelter, the food pantry. There's so many ways for students to volunteer that they don't always do, and this would be great for students who are in NHS who need those volunteer hours, and great for students who have never volunteered before. I feel like there's so much more to education than just sitting in a classroom and taking notes or listening to a lecture or watching a video. You have to go out and do these things that you're talking about. So bringing students on volunteering opportunities, I think, would be a really, really great way. And for this class, it was a little difficult for me because I didn't want to discredit the teachers who teach laws at Haviland, but because I mean, it's a great class, they do a great job, but that was in 7th grade. So now that I'm looking back and all this stuff is becoming relevant to my life now, I can't remember, I can't remember how to budget myself, stuff like that. I can't remember how to cook a meal that isn't like mac and cheese or something. The directions are on the box. I mean, this is really important stuff, and we do this in Haviland, but I feel like it'd be much more of an impact if we did it for the seniors or juniors and seniors at FDR now. I got a lot of input from guidance counselors and teachers and students because we're the ones that are in the school each and every day. We really know what the school really need. We have a good understanding of what can make the school better. So they were really all on board, and they gave me great ideas to add, stuff like that. So this isn't just me, this is a lot from the school too. So my third is a college and career workshop. So these will start with your one-on-one meetings with your guidance counselor, which are junior meetings, so we already do that. But these would move into groups of 3 to 5 students with a similar interest, so college or career. And they would then move into frequent group meetings with those students and that guidance counselor during school hours. And that's really, really important during school hours, because a lot of students and families don't make the effort to come to after-school events, because we do FAFSA night, we do college application night, but they may not have the time, or they just may not know about it, they don't have the energy to come, so having it in school hours would be really, really important. So to start would be the college workshop. So this would begin during your junior year, because that's when you start to think about college. These would help students, there are many goals of this. One is to help students find financially suitable schools. I saw way too many of my friends this year deciding between schools where they would be $100,000 in debt or $160,000 in debt. Students don't always understand the money that goes into this education, and it's so important. It's a really, really expensive education, but I think just students need that little extra support in that aspect, because a lot of times it's their family's first time doing this. You may be the oldest child, your family doesn't always know, what really to do, what's best for the student. Next would be the good fit for a student. This goes along with bringing students on tours. And I know that this year they brought some 11th graders to Marist, which is great, but I think we can do more of that. And they brought the DCC classes to Dutchess, which is great, but I think we can do more of that. We have so many we have so many colleges around our area. We have Bard, Vassar, Marist, Mount St. Mary, so many colleges that we can bring our students to really let them see, what they're in for the next 4 years. And a lot of times they may not have the time, or their family may not be able to bring them to these tours. So these are great ways for students to get more exposure. Next would be help with FAFSA, Naviance, Common App. Those are really, going through this myself, this year, they're really, really confusing. You have to make accounts, link accounts, sign up for all this stuff, put in all this information. And a lot of times, students, including myself, we kind of wait till the last minute because we're like, it's confusing, I'll do it later. So, and a lot of students won't make the effort to go see their guidance counselor to ask questions. So having these small group meetings of 3 to 5 students would kind of force the student to understand what they're doing and ask questions and be on task and be on the timeline of when their due dates are due. And this also goes along with scholarships. I mean, we all know how expensive college is now, and we do have exposure to scholarships, and I know we talked about them in my economics class, but just that extra push to be writing these short essays that can give you $1,000, it's really not too much. So this is all just really, really important stuff. Yeah, I just want to make sure I have everything. Okay. Next would be our career workshops. So these would also begin during your junior year. These, I think, are really, really important, maybe even more important than the college workshops, because a lot of times when students say they are not going to college, they're going to a trade school, or they're getting a job right out of high school, maybe because they went to BOCES, they're kind of looked past. And that's not the fault of the school or the guidance counselor or the teachers. That's just the system, because people are told after high school you got to go to college. After college you got to get a good job. So a lot of these students who don't need to go to college or who don't want to go to college they're just looked past. It's not anyone's fault. It's just kind of how it works. So these would also start during your junior year. And there's a reason for that. I'll get to that when I go down this list. So some of the goals would be to help students find internships, apprenticeships, jobs. We don't want to leave them on their own to have to search for these jobs, because I've never had to search for a real job before. I mean, I lifeguarded at a summer job, but that job was kind of presented itself to me. These are real life, real adult jobs that students may not know how to find. Next is building a resume. No one ever really teaches you how to build a resume, and that's really, really important. And it's more than just the information you put down. It's how to make it look professional, the formatting, and then also what to put down in the resume, how to build it, what is important, what jobs they're looking for, and what they're not. Then would be interview practice, so they would be able to do mock interviews, because students are actually going out into the real world and finding real jobs, and they have to know how to professionally go through these interviews. And then to help students find or get into trade school, sometimes they may not know what they need to do to pursue this career, knowing what types of certifications or licenses that they need. And this is why I said this would start during your junior year, because seniors may need their whole senior year to get these certifications or these licenses. And they may not know which ones they need, and then it's their senior year, and it's January of their senior year, and it's just too late. You know, they may have missed the class that they needed to take at a local college or something like that. So it would just help them find these things that they need to do, and then help them prepare. So giving them the tools to really know how to do this, and then learning basic computer programs for new collar jobs. So new collar jobs they're up on the rise. They're really jobs for, like, they're technical jobs, like basic computer programmers. And when I was, looking through this information, I saw that, like, places like IBM, they're always looking for people who can do these simple basic computer programming jobs. And if a student knows college isn't for them, because it's not for everyone, but they don't know exactly what they want to do, they can learn these computer skills that can just get them a job until they really know what they want to do. I also know that local businesses, they would really appreciate having these internships and these apprenticeships and jobs, because they would benefit the student, but they would also benefit the business, because this is their real life job, real life job training, and this would also help them build that resume to find, whatever they want to do. I know students who maybe went to BOCES, or they're just not going to college, and they have mentioned, they don't feel like they have that extra support that those college students do, because everyone talks about, oh, what college are you going to, this, but some of these students, they just feel looked past. And it's not the fault, like I said, of the teachers or the guidance counselors. It's just how the system works. People think you're supposed to go to college after high school. And the big reasoning why this is so important is because these students who are getting jobs right out of high school, they're so much more likely to stay in Hyde Park. And they're going to be our electricians, our plumbers, our construction workers, and that will only better our town. So doing this will only make our town better in the future by having these people who are more experienced and got that extra support to get the good job, and they're going to stay in Hyde Park because that's the job they found right out of high school. So just having the extra support of these students, giving the extra support to these students will only benefit our town in the long run. And that's it. So if anyone has any questions or anything.
Oh, thank you, Patrick, because it's obvious you did a lot of thought on this one. I really do love your idea of the career workshop versus college, and I really don't think we do as well a good job on this. I know a plumber in the area who just can't even get anyone to come and do the low level to start to learn. So yeah, when we say college and career, well, we focus on college. So you're right in that. And I do believe we have to start earlier in the junior year, not the end of the junior year, to help a student plan. So kudos on this thoughts.
First of all, I'd like to say, great job. Of course, we wouldn't expect anything less, actually. But actually, I'd like your permission to cut this section out and use it for PD for our staff at the high school. I think people need to hear this, and not just oh, look it up on YouTube. And I think you got to show this to the staff because of what he said, the passion with which he said it, and I think that there are many people in high school who need to hear this.
I agree with you, because I think this comes directly as the voice of the students,
right?
The way you present it.
And I hear this a lot, right, from you guys.
Yeah, and I did talk to some guidance counselors, because this is really it's a lot, will impact them, and their regulations are changing for next year. So they said this is really the best time to be doing this, to making this change is for next year, because they don't love the way that things are done now. Like, they think they can be better, which obviously I do think that they can too. So I just think that it would be very beneficial to have all these.
So what happened to the life skills thing that we asked for? We asked for a 10-week life skills thing that was...
The financial thing?
Yeah.
We embedded it in the economics course.
Okay.
So it's not a full course, I think, and Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Patrick's proposing a full course that's
yeah.
life skills financial. What we did after the last time we heard about the financial piece, and remember we did Mad City Money, was to embed a unit in the economics class. Is that accurate, Aviva and Patrick?
And it was actually developed during that time period, or further developed during that time period.
So it's not a full course, it's a unit for financial planning.
If it becomes a full course, can we make it mandatory?
You could, there's a process, so, yeah, I mean, you could.
I'm just asking. I didn't know if it was possible. Personally, I think it should be.
It's possible. I think, just knowing, and I know Rick Party talked to you too, I think one of the things you want to look at is mandatory with some flexibility for maybe students who have taken courses multiple times and don't have room in their schedule. The minute you make it a graduation requirement for the kids who just, so I think you can think, but I think it can be a model that can be looked at where there's some flexibility.
Health is required, right?
Right. We do.
This is more important. Well, as is important, as is important.
Well, a couple of things. One, thank you, Patrick. Amazing job at both in content and delivery. The other is that we do have a process for re-examining our electives. Now, I know that's not what you're talking about, but I think Patrick's first slide did list a number of electives. And so for things like social studies or English, sometimes you look at things like you did the FDR history and Black history. So from time to time, we do have a full year course where it's half year this, half year that, or quarters, or just a new elective. But there is a process for introducing electives. So we could very well see that generally when we look at an elective, we garner, is there student support? Do we have somebody interested? I think the FDR thing came up a while ago, and I think there was a teacher who's like chomping at the bit to teach the FDR course. I'm not going to...
Good, I think.
Yeah. So, I think there's definitely the potential. One of the things that happens is somebody, you might have to be willing to let go of an elective that somebody personally loves and has been there. But if there's consensus among the students that, we want to change it up a bit, and so there is a process for revising electives, and we have done that, and we've actually done it based on student input in the past. So that some of those are very good suggestions. We have pieces of some of the things that you're talking about, but nothing in that comprehensive package. I couldn't help but thinking, we've made a lot of headway in the college and career fairs, and I really, again, the career thing, really looking out for making sure that the same way we have the FAFSA nights and things like that, also we have them for the trades. I thought your concept of bringing some of that, figuring out how to rotate that throughout the school day could be done, take a little time, but through some creative scheduling where you build in time, where maybe, what kept going through my mind was it sounded like a proposal to redesign the senior year, and with a little bit of starting some of it in the junior year, so.
I think that it is. The reason I would like to make it mandatory is because I think the people that need it most won't take it as an elective.
I'd like to thank you. I feel like you You read my mind with a couple of things, because, you know, I'm not very quiet when it comes to sharing some of my thoughts with you all, and you can attest to being the poor recipient of one of my, you need to plan for retirement rants, right, when you were getting your summer job. So I think these are all really good suggestions. Thank you.
Sounds like a little bit of a student staff task force to take a look at, you know, what is possible, what could we look at?
Student task force?
Yeah, student staff task force, yeah.
So I have
Take a
one
look
other
at it.
question. How would you promote volunteerism in a class?
So, like how I said before, I felt it would be more beneficial and the students would understand more if they were taking on those day
So you would
field
make
trips.
it mandatory? Or how would you make it into a classroom?
No, so the volunteerism would be incorporated into the life skills class. So volunteering wouldn't be its own class, it would be like
Yeah, I understand, but how do you force a student to do volunteerism?
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't saying, you know, your homework is to go volunteer for 3 hours, but to bring students during the day on a field trip.
Okay.
Volunteering, to get them, so they can really see what volunteering is. You know, some students have never done it, and maybe it'll inspire some students to do it on their own time, but not something of like, by the end of the year, you have to have this many volunteer hours. Not that, yeah.
Well, I almost would. You know, I know a lot of other high schools require volunteer hours for graduate
Yeah,
graduation.
and that's something that we do for National Honor Society, too. You have to have a
Rhinebeck
certain amount of
requires it
in-school
as
and
a
out-of-school.
requirement of graduation.
Yeah.
Then it's really not volunteer if you're required.
Well, it's not, but it's making them get out. It's not, but it's making them
I
get
wanna
out
share my
and
son's
expand and be exposed to some other things out there.
You know, and to be fair, too, sometimes we need to change how we think and how we do things. So I know, for example, right now in at least a few of our elementary schools, there is a field trip to the lunchbox. And I remember it started with one class and then grew to two, and now it's become a fifth grade field trip in at least two of our schools. I don't want to say four because I'm not sure. So there is a paradigm shift of what constitutes a field trip. And we talk in a lot of our meetings, if we're going to add something to the plate, what goes off? And when I talk about a task force, that's the kind of give and take, because there's only so many hours in a day. But if college visits or visits to volunteer sites are, if we shift in that direction, you know, so what might be a field trip that the students are willing to say, I'm not going to go on that one, or you know, how do we accommodate new thinking and what goes? You know, I know that some things become such a big tradition, whether it's medieval times that we moved away from for, you know, a different type of field trip. So I think these are great suggestions to bring to a table and say, okay, let's look at what constitutes a field trip for the high school students, and where do they go, and what's the value? What are some of the things for field trips that we're not doing that we could do? You know.
And I think with the volunteerism, not so much bringing them to actually volunteer, but just showing them, you know, where the opportunities to volunteer, right? Because if you ask people, you know, people think this is a paid job. They don't even know this is volunteer, right? So they don't even know the opportunities that are, at least for me, right, what opportunities are available to volunteer. And I think just by that education would help increase the volunteerism.
Absolutely, yeah.
Before you sit down, I just wanted to thank you. I thought you did a tremendous job, and you gave us a lot to think about. So I appreciate it.
I'd like to make one comment to Patrick. And to lead one final comment, I got intrigued by an article on my phone, which I usually don't look at, especially because it comes up early in the morning. But they were talking about preparing for college. This one dealt with the article of preparing for graduation from college, and a group of students that have totally feel they've been waylaid in the past half half a decade, in terms of they graduated with a basic degree, and they've been told now, that's great, you're off to a good start, but you need to, yada, yada, yada. And what is left out is they didn't get the skills in the beginning to look at a school that could financially afford. Now they're being told by people, hey, you can get a great job. One guy sat down, I think it just struck me, it nearly killed me. This guy got his bachelor's degree, got a master's degree, and got his degree in certified accountant. And when he got all done, he sat down and did a calculation, the spreadsheet, all the things he'd learned. And what he realized was if he worked for 25 years and donated 50% of his earned salary, with the salary progressing as he advanced, it would take him that quarter of a century to pay off the debt he had accrued by going through college, master's, and doctorate programs. This is a guy who was dealing with numbers, dealing with money all the way, and never thought to stop and look at it, because they kept saying, oh, don't worry about it. You get a great job, you'll pay it off.
Yep.
You get a great job, you pay it off. They just, the part that was left off is, yeah, you pay it off after you spend a quarter of a century. And by the way, when you're doing this, you can't raise a family, you can't travel, you can't vacation, and you can't quit. It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Where are you going next year, Patrick?
St. John Fisher, up in Rochester, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Bring your long johns and a shovel.
My snow pants.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have public participation. Can I have a motion to open public participation?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. At this time, if you would like to address the board, please go to the microphone and state your name.
Well, so far. You can go up twice, Sharon.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. Most people know me. My name's Sharon Mattias, former board member. First of all, Patrick, I've never met you. I didn't know you when my kids were in school, but bravo, you did a great job. I just want to say I work at a college where we have cashless facilities. I hire sign language interpreters all the time. I tell people I know all the time, if you ever want to take another language, go. I need you. It's in this area especially. I don't know about other areas, but I hire them all the time for events, and we have them in our program at college with students all day long. So it's great. So wonderful ideas. I also have 2 college students. I'm still trying to teach how to do laundry and cook. So very valid point. Speaking of college students, I started on the board when my older son was in 1st grade, and next week he is graduating from Northwestern University. So I came here to say thank you, and also to honor some of the people I sat with at these tables in these meetings for many, many years, and especially to Dan Duffy. I know in a couple weeks it's your last board meeting, and
It's my next to last board meeting. Yeah.
yes, and I'm sorry I can't attend the celebration. Thank you for inviting me next week, but I wanted to personally come and thank you for all the years of service you have done. It's great to see so many colleagues and people still involved with the district, even though I've kind of been off to the sidelines. My kids are in college, but consistency, I mean, it's really important. Greer's here, you know, we brought her here. We're happy to have her back here, and it's great that she's still here. Aviva, you know, it's great to see you, and Linda at the table, and all the folks in this room. And I think that's helped us succeed and keep doing good things for all our kids and our community. I mean, as you guys know how important the school district is in the community. And, you know, I have no intention of leaving for a long time. I'm very happy with the education my children got, but I want to personally come and thank you, Dan, for your many years, and kudos to you for all the energy you gave to our kids in our district. And you know, hopefully you're getting it back, or you've gotten it back in many ways. And you know, I think of you all the time, and I see, you know, I see Janet at work, and I just hope you get to enjoy some retirement time. And you know, we'll still see you at events, hopefully, and in town, and see your grandchildren and your children and all those things too. So thank you. Card.
Very nice.
Going where?
Nice.
Anybody else would like to address the board?
Good evening, Steve Hughes, district resident. Excuse me. At the risk of putting words in Mr. Wert's mouth, I think the right answer when the board asked when they could support bring your own devices is, how much staffing can you give me to do it? Technology especially is subject to increasing function without thinking about increasing support. Moving on, Mr. Perry made a comment when they're talking about teachers who won't use technology that they shouldn't be worried about, which in principle I agree with. However, he also said, regardless of where they are in their career path, and I would suggest that if they are new on their career path, then the board has an issue with administration, because you should not be hiring teachers who will not use technology in their classrooms, because there are very few jobs available that do not use technology in one way or another. And if you have a teacher who will not use it in the classroom, you're doing a disservice to the students. And finally, I was wondering if the board is concerned about the discrepancy in enrollments in the 4 elementary schools, which is projected to continue for at least 5 years, and probably beyond that. So I was wondering if you are close to making a decision about redistricting. Thank you.
Hi, Bobby Goodman. I have a question on a couple of different things, since we had so many things going on tonight. For the enrollment study, there was a slide about housing sales, but we have a lot of apartment complexes in our district, so I don't know how that affects our enrollment study. So I don't know if there's a way to judge how many kids are living in the apartment complexes. For the capital project, they kept bringing up saying that with this change that the finalization for North Park would be the summer of 2020, and I thought that was when we were scheduled to begin FDR, so I didn't know if there was a change in the timeline for construction. The only concern, for the technology department, the only thing as a parent and the thing I get from my kid is, I wish I could print at home. I have to go and find some place to print every day when I go to school. So I know that that was his one comment. That was his comment. Patrick, I loved your show. That was great. I agree that needs to be shared with the school, absolutely, with all the people. The only thing I would change is the career workshops would be 9th grade, before they have to decide if they're going to BOCES. If we could do something with the younger kids, then if they know they want to look at that, when we do their sign-ups in 10th grade, they can look at going into BOCES for 11th grade. And just a plug for the freshman class with the volunteering, they have a group of students going this weekend to volunteer at Special Olympics. They put it out as a class. They canceled their car wash and decided to go do that instead.
Nice.
That was it. Thank you very much.
Interactive right now.
Would anybody else like to address the board? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. So, Steve, I do believe you have a really good point about the hiring. So it is something I think we do look at.
Yeah, I would just clarify. I mean, my point was, whether somebody's got 10 years in or 20 years in, I agree. If when we're hiring, and I think we do look at that, the technology.
I think you were trying not to stereotype teachers further in their career.
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah.
Like you were just trying not to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just chime in here, because I know Perry and many other people will remember it. We started the year on October 18th, co-hosting with Red Hook, Ray McNulty, who did future-focused education, and it certainly wasn't about devices, but he was really spot on about a number of things. But he said that technology won't replace teachers. Teachers who use technology will replace teachers who don't. You know, it's just going to evolve its way out. I mean, you know, we've all seen those video clips and TED Talks about, you know, do you even remember what it was like pre-cell phone or pre-this? And but I've held on to that quote because I think it's really, it's going to happen. It's inevitable, you know, but.
I'd just like to comment on the
Yeah, and I had a few
redistricting. It's a thought. However, there are other things that can be done with, I won't call excess space, but other spaces. For instance, in Violet Avenue, you might have a community school. We might have health services, mental health services. You might have a dentist, a doctor. There's other things that could be done in those buildings that would benefit the children. I'm not saying we're doing that, but I'm just saying don't rush to redistrict until we've decided what we might be able to put in those spaces.
I think we put off the whole talk about redistricting until we got the study. First of all, this was totally our first step, and it might not be our last step before we even discuss that, but we had to do this first.
And that is exactly the point that I was looking for when, what is that saturation point of what percentage of utilization of your buildings are you looking at? Because you can't reach 100%, but, you know, and I wrote it down because I'm going to,
57%.
We were at like 50.
But
That's what
we're not there on any of our elementary schools. We're actually closer, I noticed actually in our middle school and high school, we're probably closer to the percentages that she felt that were at capacity. But I agree. I mean, it's a thought that I've got in the back of my mind is, you know, at what point? I mean, North Park Elementary, we've got a lot of students there. I trust that we're doing the right thing by, you know, for our students and our faculty in that location.
I'm sorry we didn't ask the question while they were here when, you know, months ago, when we got the preliminary report, I did say we should address whether, you know, redistricting, you know, all the fearful things that come up in an enrollment study, fifth grade in the middle school, you know, et cetera. And she did address them when we had a phone conference with her. So I will ask her to provide a comment on redistricting now, because we did ask, and I honestly can't remember what her answer was, but there was, I'll get their perspective. It doesn't mean that we'll stop looking at it or exploring that, as, you know, our job now is to take this information and our new building condition survey that'll be coming up and take a look at all of our things. But I will go back to her and ask the two questions. I can't remember what her response was, because I specifically asked her, if we redistrict, what would we gain? And other than knowing that a major disruption, she did have an answer. I'll ask her that, and I'll ask Bobby's question about the, you know, how do the apartment units fit into that, and see if she has any insight into that. The 2020 timeline, North Park construction will take place over this summer, next summer. FDR is still, and Haviland are still scheduled for the following summer as well. So it's not setting back the timeline for either of those projects. Check printing at home, I have no clue. I was like, I don't know, but, and, wow, great news about the ninth graders going to the Special Olympics. That's fantastic.
I do think Bobby has a good point about those people doing career path and going with guidance to talk about BOCES programs. So that is something I think should be looked at.
I forget how they do that, because there is a mechanism to have students aware of the CTI programs.
They receive a presentation, and it actually is part of the ninth grade orientation. And sometimes the principal of CTI has come and presented, so I know that that's actually timely. It's an idea of like, as students are just entering FDR, but it's a presentation, which is different than a visit, and less comprehensive than actually a small group or one-on-one and having those conversations. So, and I'm glad you talked to the guidance counselors, because a lot of what you suggested, you must have known somehow intuitively was needed, because a lot of that's in the new regulations, but not all of it.
And I just also want to say that the opportunity to talk about career planning, it could be a collaboration with the Career and Tech Center and our school. You know, we don't have to do that alone. It could be a joint effort, you know, so maybe that's part of what they incorporate into their classes before students leave. So we'll be sure to include them in this conversation as well. Yeah.
Also, I think we probably should have a discussion about moving public participation when we have multiple presentations. We're 2.5 hours into the meeting and we just finished public participation. So I think it should be a discussion on the board at some time.
Okay, before we leave, could I just have a minute or two? I'd like to thank Sharon for those kind comments. What I hope people realize is that I've gotten more out of 18 years on the board than I ever could hope to have contributed to the district. I got more out of the school district than I think anybody has a right to expect. I had 8 children go to the school. Every one of them along the way, in every spot, in every place along the way, was treated as an individual. Only on one occasion at middle school did I ever have a question what was going on. And the funny thing about it was it took one comment for me to see changes the next year. And the comment was about what they called the team teaching program, and the fact that the teachers discussed students. I went as my last students, who happened to be identical triplets, were going through the school. And the first teacher we talked to the first week, or the second session they had to meet the parents, and parents meet the teachers after they had been with them for a while and stuff like that, we said, well, how are they doing? And they said, they're doing great in my class. I says, let me ask the question again, how are they doing? And the teacher stopped and says, well, what do you mean? I says, well, I'm talking about my kids going through the school, not individually going through your class. I'm having a couple of opportunities. I said, it's important for me to understand that everybody is looking at the kids individually and looking at them as a whole. He says, well, they're doing well. I says, well, how is my son doing in English? How's he doing in social studies? And he says, well, I says, that's my question, I says, at this time. I says, I know what you're saying, and the consequences of it scares me. All of my kids have got a 90 average in your class, isn't that correct? He says, yeah. He says, do all of my kids have 90 averages in all the other classes? Suppose all my kids had a 70 average in another class. They'd be happy with that, saying that's what they're doing. You'd be happy saying that's what they're doing. And I'd be screaming like hell saying, what's going on? Why is this being created? So that was probably one of the biggest contributions I thought I made in all my years and paths through there. My 8 kids went on to high school, they went on to college. They all graduated college, they all found a niche in life. They were all working, except for my son that passed away as a senior in Villanova University. And it was this school, my church, and my family that got my wife and I through all of it. Every one of them stepped forward. Everyone came to us. And that's a debt I'll never be able to repay. But it's an important debt to comment now, to understand in this school district. The caring teachers predominate. The people that understand what's necessary and what's going on are always there. And if you go to them individually and ask the questions, they're always willing to give you an honest answer. And Sharon said, enjoy the things that are doing. I'm leaving not because I don't enjoy what I'm doing. It's just because I found myself stretched a little thin. Because I still got my 7 kids to worry about and their families. But now I've got 14 grandchildren to play with. And my feeling has always been, it's a shame we become parents before we become grandparents. Because if you ever had the opportunity to be a grandparent, the part about raising children and being a parent would be so much easier. So much easier, because you can see where they go and what's going on. And I truly, truly thank the school district for allowing me to be a board member, for those people that voted me in time and time again. I kind of felt every time, they're tired of me now, they're going to throw me out. They're tired of me, they're going to throw me out. But I kept running, and they kept bringing me back, and I've enjoyed nothing in my life any more than that. And the last thing is the volunteerism. This was my volunteerism. This was my opportunity to help as many kids as I could. People say, why do you do this? Why do you go to games? Why do you go to board meetings? I have a very simple answer. They made it so easy for me. Have you seen what's on television, what they offer to entertain you? Does it make any sense to substitute that for what we get here? Not at all. And for volunteerism, the one thing I see taking people here and taking people there. I think volunteerism has got to start with the child and what makes you happy. What makes you happy? There are so many opportunities for volunteerism out there that fit what makes you happy. I've got a grandson that just loves babies. He himself is not much older. He's a third grader now. But he'll always play with the babies. He'll always go to make sure they've got something to do. I've got another son that just loves to see people advancing and students advancing in sports and activities that they'll live for life. He's coaching. I see other opportunities there with the elderly. Or even better still, the not so elderly, those that are younger than me. Because there are opportunities there to bring them on board and to keep them abreast of what's going on. Opportunities to work with parents, work with grandparents, to be able to communicate with their families. It's so easy these days for a grandparent to lose touch with the rest of his family because they've moved on to Chromebooks and FaceTime and stuff like that. And if you can't communicate to them that way, and with that way, especially the way families spread out throughout the country, you're in trouble. These kids in the schools, they love it. They love to fix things. They love to make things work. And they love to share their knowledge. I don't think, volunteerism is dying out. I think the opportunities and places where we can volunteer have not kept up with the times of the opportunities that exist there. And I think the source of those tell us what we need to do, what can be done, is not us. I think it's the kids. We need to sit like we did for Patrick all year long. And we benefited from at the end of this year what we could do for those kids. The kids can tell us what we can provide them with to allow them to do even more. So let's not pass that opportunity up either. Thank you, Sharon.
Jeff, before we move on, I don't think you should move public participation. You should have fewer presentations, and we should go back to the 10-minute rule, because most of the comments tonight were based on what the presentations were. So this was an unusually heavy schedule.
Yeah.
I think it was because of necessity, but this should not happen. You should never have this.
We had one, the capital project was unanticipated.
Okay.
Okay, well, either way, if there was somebody that came to the board meeting too, we should give them an opportunity instead of have to wait 2.5 hours to do so. Okay, board subcommittee reports?
The audit committee met last night, and it reviewed the draft audit, internal audit, and we had a discussion on what was going to be done on the things, and the draft is being kind of redone until it's its final point, at which time is all the edits that we asked for get put in. It'll come to maybe the next, when are we going to go to the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we're on track to have it.
And we'll bring it to the next meeting. So it was very well done. The presentation by the gentleman was excellent, and it was I don't want to denigrate the last guy that did things, but this was really well done. And so that's all I'm going to say. But it should be on the agenda next meeting.
Any more committee reports?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would mention is that the Dutchess County School Board Association annual dinner is next Thursday, June 20th, and it's going to be at the Arlington High School, and all board members are welcome to attend. They do ask that you RSVP by Monday. I think everybody should have gotten an email today on that, so it's always a good night. You know, you get a little taste of what goes on at the association and what it does for us.
Okay, on to board discussion. We talked about a meeting next week?
Yeah, we just got these bid awards. We'd like to do this Monday or Tuesday. I can send you all home with a copy. We need to write the resolution. That was the one thing that we didn't have in place, was the written resolution. So I need a 10-minute meeting. It'd be great if we could do it Monday or Tuesday, either 10 minutes in the morning or 10 minutes in the afternoon, or I just thought if we could choose a time now, we could get out the notice tomorrow, and here's the backup material. But,
I won't be here next week.
okay, 1, 2, 3.
Monday's better for me.
Monday's fine for me.
I can only do Monday in the evening, I can't do it in the afternoon or the morning, so as long as you have a forum on a different time, that's fine.
Monday evening, 5 o'clock?
I can do 5 o'clock, but, I mean, I don't know what everybody else's schedule is, I don't, you're out. Right, we don't know do we know what Carl's schedule? What does everybody else think about a time?
5 o'clock Monday?
5 o'clock Monday?
All right, then.
Of all the choices, that would be the best.
3,
Okay.
4, 5. That would be 5, and maybe Carl 6. Make sure everybody gets one of these. They're at Denise, and give one to Patrick and Linda. And
Oh, thank you, I'm sorry.
so it'll be a single agenda item on Monday at 5 o'clock. Patrick and I don't vote. Do we have to be there? No. I'll be there. No, I actually didn't check.
Yeah, Patrick, you don't have to be there.
Okay, so Monday at 5.
Monday, the 17th at 5.
5. So Jay, you can get all that out. And did you get one of these? And I think Linda will prepare, I don't know what the resolution
I can
looks like.
prepare it,
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, on to section 10, consent agenda. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved. Second?
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to, sorry, I know it's late, but we had our retiree reception just prior, so I would like to point out that on the agenda are several of our retirees from every different facet of our school system, bus drivers, library aides, teachers, guidance counselors, you name it. So it's taxpayer money, nobody gets a gold watch, although I did see the HPTA 25-year watch. That was really nice. I just want to say congratulations to all the retirees and thank them for the years of dedication. We're going to miss them, and several of them are on here.
I will say for the public, there's 36 items on there, but we have brought things in that we may have covered in the reorg meeting, but we had moved them forward because they were ready. So, all those in favor? Motion carries. On to new business. Can I have a motion for 11.1, special education placements?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I reviewed the packet, recommended its adoption as presented.
All those in favor?
You guys can
Opposed?
those words next year.
Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.2, the superintendent's contract?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Guess I'm not retiring.
We have a motion for 11.3, the 2019-2020 food service budget.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. We have a motion for 11.4, meal prices for the 2019-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I was in the former, not the latter.
Okay, can I have a motion for 11.5, overnight field trip?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say, this is the gold standard of information that we get for field trips.
This is the
As it
cheer
is
trip.
every year.
Yeah, the cheer trip.
Cheers.
Yeah, yeah, she's got it down to a science.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Jeff, you were so efficient and going so quickly, I didn't get a chance to jump in, and when we talked about superintendent's contract, I just wanted to say thank you, Greer, for all that you do, and
Yeah.
I'm glad
It's 9:43, that's why it's
stay on
called.
for a while.
Thank you, thanks.
Okay, at this time, can I have a motion for second public participation?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. If anybody else would like to address the board, please go to the microphone and state your name.
We'll have one last roast at the next board meeting for Dan, a little public roasting.
Seeing none, public participation is now closed. There is no other matters deemed necessary by the board.
Hooray.
There's no need for a second executive session.
Hooray.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.